Welcome to Pop Chat. My name is Annette Tarpley. I'm the founder of the Passion of Poetry, and with me today, I'm very proud to have Paul Bernard with me from Bethlehem, Israel. Welcome, Paul.
It's nice to be with you today.
Great. Paul is very interesting. Not only is he a remarkable poet, does these great videos, but he also is a journalist over in Israel and will be sharing a lot with us. So happy to have you. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the stage to you, and you can introduce yourself and tell the world a little bit more about Paul. It's actually Colbert, right? But you go by
Yes, it is
Bernard.
Calvert. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we give the stage to you.
Yeah, nice to be with you today. I'm actually in Bethlehem at the moment. So I'm about 5 minutes Jesus was born. And I've lived here in the Holy Land for about 21 years. So I've got quite a lot of experience about understanding the situation and the circumstances that are here in the Holy Land. Today is a very historic day because if you remember, about 6 weeks ago, there was a terrorist attack in Israel, very close to the border communities, and 240 people were kidnapped from Israel and taken into the Gaza Strip. So they are about to release a certain number. I think it's about 13 people are being released today for a ceasefire. And then also Israel are going to be releasing some Palestinian prisoners as well. So it's a very historic day. Everyone's been waiting for this. It was supposed to happen yesterday. Um, it's been a very, very difficult and sad time at the moment here in the Holy Land because of the war situation, and because of what happened. And I work as a journalist, so I've been interviewing so many people over the last few weeks, and just hearing all these stories of what happened, and it's just been very, very sad. And stories from both sides of the divide. It seems that you're pro-Israel or you're pro-Palestinian, and there doesn't always seem to be a place in the middle. So I've been hearing the stories from both sides, and it's just been a joy to be able to collect a sense of history, but very, very sad as well. There was a terrorist attack in the south, very close to the Gaza border. Hamas broke through the fence and killed many, many people. Some of the horrific stories we've actually heard from that. They went into houses and started killing the people. They raped women. I've even heard the story of them putting baby in an oven and killing a baby that way. So very, very gross and difficult stories that have been coming out from that. And then also as well, we've heard some sad things from the Palestinian side. I have a friend who works in Jerusalem, and he works getting children out of Gaza to give them life-saving operations, and Israeli doctors do operations on them. And so his work has basically been stopped because of the situation in Gaza. But they did have one woman who'd brought her child out to have a life-saving operation from Gaza. They were in Israel, and then she got the news that her 3 children had been killed in a bombing. So very, very tragic situations and circumstances. Also, as well, I've got friends here in Bethlehem who have family that live in Gaza, and their family are basically living in 2 of the churches at the moment. So they've became stuck in these 2 churches, and they have to try and go out and get water and go out and get food as well. So it's been a very, very difficult time here for everybody, for the Palestinian side, because there's been a lot of bombing, but also from the Israeli side as well, because these are people that are sending their sons to war. And if you can imagine, you've got a 20-year-old son. Nobody wants to go to war. Nobody wants their son to go to war. So they're going out to war, and they don't know if they're going to come back. So it's a very desperate time for both sides.
Yeah, my goodness, it sounds like it. Do you ever worry about your own safety and security?
Well, we've had a few issues here in Bethlehem. We're actually quite a long way from Gaza, so we're about 70 kilometers away from Gaza. But Hamas have fired rockets to Jerusalem, and they've been coming across the Bethlehem area. So the very first day that all this started, I was in my radio studio and I heard this huge explosion, and I didn't know what it was. And then throughout the day, everything started to progress, and we heard that people had been kidnapped and this and that. And then if we had another rocket that came over the Bethlehem area, then I remember time, and I want to record this event. So I run outside and I get my video camera, and there was such a huge explosion. Now, what Israel has, they have the thing called the Iron Dome. So when they fire a rocket from Gaza, if you live in Sderot, which is very close to the Gaza border, you've got 15 seconds to get into your bomb shelter. If you live in
Wow.
Jerusalem, we've got about 60 seconds. So there's apps you can have, and the apps tell you where the rockets are going. So they will tell you if it's coming to Jerusalem. So if they fire something now, I will know, and I will have 60 seconds. So I ran outside, got my camera up, and I didn't get it in time. But there was a huge explosion. And we've had this 4 times where there's been 4 instances where they've fired rockets to the Jerusalem area. And of course, this is where I am. I'm just out of Jerusalem. So that's been a target. Also, as well, I go to Jerusalem. I haven't, for just recently because of the war, I haven't been to Jerusalem much. I've been once. Bethlehem is locked up at the moment. So if you're Palestinian, you cannot get out unless you've got permission. So that's been absolutely devastating for the Palestinian community in Bethlehem. They've just been getting over COVID because there was no tourism. Bethlehem is built on tourism. So all the tourists aren't coming now. So that means all the hotels are empty, the shops are not selling their goods, taxis, bus drivers, they're not being able to do anything. Also, as well, you have many people who live in Bethlehem have got permission to work in Jerusalem, and they go and work in Jerusalem, but Israel's closed the border, so they can't go to work. I've got a friend of mine, because he works in a school, he's got a teacher permit so he can get through, but most people can't. And the checkpoint, I walked to the checkpoint last week, it's closed, you can't take your car through. I go and speak in a school, which is at the top of Bet Jala, and there's like something called the DCO, which is like an army operations base. And next to it is the school that I speak at. I do like a chapel every Wednesday. Well, the schools had to close down and they've had to go on Zoom. So I was getting the bus from there. The bus used to come into basically Bethlehem, and I went, you can't get out. So it's been very difficult for a lot of people. That bus route is the bus route that I would normally take if everything was okay. And we come to a checkpoint and you have to get off the bus. I don't always, but the Palestinians get off the bus and show their ID. And there was a terrorist attack there. I think it was last week. And one of the soldiers that was guarding that base was shot and killed. 5 people were injured altogether. One of them died. So for me, it's not been too bad. The Israeli soldiers come into Bethlehem. Whenever there's trouble, they begin to riot at Rachel's tomb, because right next to that area, there's three refugee camps in Bethlehem. So there's 2 refugee camps very close to Rachel's tomb. So the kids come out, the Palestinian kids, they throw stones at Rachel's tomb, because behind there, Rachel's tomb is controlled by the Israeli soldiers. So then the soldiers come out, fire tear gas and rubber bullets, and but that's a normal thing. That normally happens every so often when the Palestinians are angry for something. That's usually the flashpoint, and also the refugee camps are a flashpoint as well. So we've had a few youngsters been killed in the refugee camps. So very, very sad.
You were telling me that's very sad. You were telling me earlier too, before we began, that they're canceling Christmas.
Yeah, this is really sad. I heard rumors, so I went to do an interview with the mayor, and yes, they've cancelled Christmas. So there were lights, there was strip lights in Manger Square. They've started taking them down, and no Christmas tree has been put up. So the
Wow.
churches of the Holy Land announced they weren't going to celebrate Christmas because of this war. And then, of course, the municipality of Bethlehem has announced they're not going to do Christmas tree lighting. So the first week in December is the lighting of the Christmas tree, where the Prime Minister, Mohammed Shtia, he would come and he would turn on the lights. And it's a fantastic celebration. They have all the choirs from all around the world, and they have local things on. And I get a press event, and I can stand right on top of the mayor's building and do some video and stuff like that. It's a wonderful experience. And then they switch the lights on, they have a countdown, switch them on, and then fireworks fly from the Nativity Church. but
Oh,
that's all been
wow.
cancelled. So it's all been cancelled. So that's not happening. Um, on the 24th of December is when the scouts go and march. So all the scouts from the community, from the area, they come in their scout troops and they will march down Star Street and bring the patriarch in. So you have all the different scout troops coming, marching into Manger Square, and they play drums. They're very good at bagpipes. They have the bagpipes, saxophones, all these different instruments playing Christmas carols, marching into Bethlehem. And then behind them, at about 2 o'clock, the patriarch will arrive and he will go into Nativity Church. So all that will still happen as far as the patriarch. The patriarch will come and there'll probably be one scout troop. There will be no musical instruments, but they will lead him slowly and quietly into Nativity Church. So it won't be like any other years that we've experienced. And they do that 3 times as well, because we have 3 Christmases here. So we have the 24th for the Gregorian calendar. Then we have the 6th of January for the Orthodox Christians. Then we have the Armenians, which is, I think Christmas Day is the 18th of January. So we always have 3 Christmases here, but it won't be like any other year this year. It'll be very, very sad and very solemn.
Yeah. So I guess all of that has to do with why celebrate, with this
Yep.
war and everything else going on. So I can certainly understand that, but it's a very sad situation indeed.
Yeah.
So tell me about some of the people that you've interviewed as a journalist there.
There are lots of different people, particularly the Christian community is very much responding to what's going on here. The people who live in the Gaza communities, they've had to escape because there's been rocket fire. So Christian community, Jewish organizations have taken them out of the area and put them into some of these hotels and paid for them to be in hotels. So a lot of the Christian community has actually just been going to bless them and just help them at this difficult time. Really great to do interviews with that. Dr. Franklin Graham, Reverend Franklin Graham, rather, was here just last week. So I got an interview with him. That was just absolutely amazing just to do an interview with him, because my boss, Dr. Tony Stone in the UK, used to work with Billy Graham. So I was just so blessed to be able to do an interview with Franklin Graham, his son. So and they're doing a great work, because Franklin, of course, runs Samaritan Purse. And so they were able to just go and help people, give people food vouchers, things like this. There was about, I think it was 14 ambulances were destroyed when the terrorist attack took place. So, and about 9 ambulance workers were murdered, because what happened was there was they attacked these different kibbutz, brought people out and murdered them, killed them. But there was also a music festival happening. So everyone was partying. And you can see in the background, they flew over the fence in these jet-propelled parachute things. And they had guns and they started shooting at the music festival. So people started fleeing and running away. They got in their cars, but as they were fleeing, the terrorists were also on the road. So as they drove away, they started shooting at the cars. So if they got away, they got killed by that as well. And I've seen a video footage of a policeman arrives at the scene and he's shouting, "Is anybody there? Is anybody there?" And he's looked, and there's dead bodies absolutely everywhere at this festival. I think about 200 or so people were killed at the festival. I heard a story of a house where they got into their safe room. Now, these safe rooms, I think, are built for rockets rather than for safe rooms for terrorists. So the Palestinian Hamas got into the house, tried to break into the safe room, but the husband was holding the door and they couldn't get in. And so he was protecting his family because the wife and kids were in there. And then they started shooting at the door, and then the husband was shot. So they got some cloth down and covered it over him, and he was still able to hold the door. And he had a gun there, so he gave his gun to the wife, and his wife was able to shoot one of the terrorists. So that made them escape. But as they escaped, they set fire to the house. And then the house was on fire, and they had to escape through a back window. And the husband said, "Go, leave me." But they were actually protecting his wound. So he knew that if they leave, he was going to die. So they managed to escape and got out, and of course the husband died. And the Israeli army came and rescued them out. But as they were leaving, there was terrorists on the road shooting at them. So even though they'd escaped this tragic situation, they were still actually being attacked as they were trying to escape and get away. So just a real horrific thing that has happened. And of course,
Yeah.
now Israel is trying to deal with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And it's what do you say? We're seeing a lot of people killed in Gaza, but we have to rely on Hamas telling us how many people have been killed. So Hamas fire rockets into Israel, and their rockets fail. So one of their rockets failed and fell into the area of the hospital. Now Hamas told us, Israel's bombing the hospital, and 500 people have been killed. Well, we now know that wasn't true. It fell in the car park of the hospital, and there wasn't 500 people killed. So when we hear that 12,000 Palestinians have been killed, we don't know if that's true. But of course, the
Yeah.
world responds and says, no, 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 we need to have a ceasefire. We need to have a ceasefire. If we have a ceasefire, Hamas will still exist. And in 6 months' time, a year's time, I can guarantee we'll have this same situation all over again. Because every 6 months or so, they fire rockets into Israel, and then Israel fire back into the Gaza Strip, and the world sees, oh, look what's happening. Look. So, is it right to have a ceasefire? If we do have a ceasefire, innocent people will survive. They won't be killed. But on the other hand, Hamas will still exist. And one of my workers works with me in the radio. He is from Gaza. And he said, I want Israel to go in and destroy Hamas. And he's Palestinian because he knows what Hamas is for the people. It is like ISIS. So if Israel go in, totally destroy Hamas, that will be good for Israel, but it will also be good for the Palestinians as well. So when we call for a ceasefire, I don't know whether it's wise because it's like putting a bandage on gangrene. You know, at the end of the day, you're still going to have to deal with this problem. Really, we just need to pray that Israel is wise in dealing with Gaza, that they don't hit innocent civilians. I have a friend here in Bethlehem. Her family were in the church, and Israel bombed next door. And when they bombed next door, part of the building fell on the church, and her auntie was killed. So I understand the Palestinian narrative of we need to have a ceasefire and things like this. I understand that, and I understand that people are dying. But you know, whenever anybody goes to war, innocent people die. You know, we had the war with Afghanistan, we had the war with Iraq. Many innocent people died. So I think Israel have a right to defend themselves as long as they're careful. But they do send messages and tell people, get out of the way because we're coming to bomb your area. And people need to listen and need to heed that. So yeah, so it's been very difficult time for the last 6 weeks. So it's left me very busy. So the first week that it happened, people were all wanting to get in contact with me. Can I do an interview with you? So I was the front page of my local newspaper, uh, basically when that happened. And they put a picture of the Gaza destruction and a picture of me, and it made it look like that I was in Gaza and my life was in danger. But it wasn't quite that case. So it's fairly quiet here. Yeah, it's fairly quiet here. We're fairly safe. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Well, well, just need lots of prayers, I tell you, to hopefully sustain things and hopefully it'll be over. Unfortunately, people over there have been fighting these wars for years and years, you know, hundreds and thousands of years, it seems like. It just never stopped, but it's a tragic thing. War is always so ugly. I always say that we should have women have power and not men. Let's get rid of the testosterone. We can just have bake off and cook offs, you know?
Yeah. Well, I always say, I always joke with Palestinians and say, you know, if everyone was like me, the world would be a better place. Then I also say, bring back the British, we'll sort you out, because of course, Britain ruled Palestine for a period of time,
Yeah.
in about the 1920s to 1948. So we ruled this area. So I jokingly say with them, oh, Palestine for the British, we want our land back. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Are there many British people there now?
sorry.
Are there many British people there presently that live? in your area?
I don't know anybody here in Bethlehem. I do know one of my friends is British and they're Jewish as well. So they live in Ashkelon. So Ashkelon has been a target for the rockets. So they've got children as well, which have all grown up. So I know them. I don't know too many British people. We've had one or two over the years come in. So yeah.
Yeah. Are you well received in that area as a British man?
Sorry, you're cutting in and out. Sorry.
Are you well received as a resident? I mean, you've been there 21 years. Do they
Yeah,
receive you well?
I'm very well received. Palestinians want to share their pain and their hurt. They also blame us a little bit about the pain and the hurt as well, because of course we had the white paper called the Balfour Declaration, where we said we want to make a Jewish homeland for the Jewish people in about 1922. Now that was just a piece of paper. It didn't really mean anything because we couldn't do anything about it. But then, of course, with the Second World War, and well, before the Second World War, we got control of Palestine. So it did mean we could actually bring Jews into the land. But actually, in some ways, we sort of broke our promise because instead we split the land. So
Mm,
the land originally, when we owned it, was Israel and Jordan. So we split it and we gave 77% of Palestine to the Jordanians. So Jordan is actually a Palestinian state, and eventually 23% of it became Israel. So, but when the Jews came into the land, they emigrated and they became Palestinians. And then, of course, we left very hastily because in them days it was actually the Jews that were the terrorists because they wanted to get rid of the British. So we
yeah.
left, and then very hastily, the United Nations offered the Palestinians a state, offered Israel a state, and the Palestinians rejected it, and Israel got created as a nation. And then all the Arab nations roundabout came and invaded Israel. So we're not having this. So Egypt, Jordan, they all came against Israel and told Palestinians, get out of your house, flee. We will come in. We will come and destroy Israel, and then you can come back. And of course, that didn't happen. So that created a refugee situation. And now there are many, many refugees. You've got refugees in Lebanon, and we've got 3 refugee camps here in Bethlehem. So, but the United Nations look after those refugees, but it seems these are the only refugees in the world that can actually inherit refugee status. So even the children's, oh well, I'm a refugee. Well, you're not a refugee. You know,
Yeah,
your family are from refugees, but you're not a refugee. So it's a very,
yeah.
very difficult situation. It's also a very difficult situation theologically as well, because people who read the Bible, if you read the book of Genesis, it tells us that God made a covenant with Israel. I will give you this land. It's an eternal covenant. And the Jews today say the land is ours. Well, some Christians are very pro Israel. God said the land belongs to the Jewish people, and they believe that's what happens today. Now, some Christians say, no, that's finished. The church has replaced Israel. So now all the promises that went to Israel now go to the church. So now you have part of the church which is very pro Palestinian. And their main talk is justice, justice, justice. And some part of the church is very pro Israel. So you can see now, even within the church, there's a little bit with the war. You've got your pro Palestinian side that's very, very strong, and you've got your pro Israel side, which is also very, very strong. I'm of the opinion of the pro Israel side because I believe that God gave the land to the Jews. It does say it was an eternal covenant, and God made that covenant with himself. He split the animals in two and he walked through the animals. And what he was saying was, if I break my covenant, then I should be split in two. And that was the promise that God made. So I don't, if you write a contract, you can't change it halfway through. If I go and buy a mobile phone, 6 months later, I can't go back and say, sorry, I don't want this anymore. I want you to tear up the contract. And that's what God done. It doesn't change and go to the church. God has a plan for the Israel, and God has a plan for the church, and they're two different, separate plans. And I do believe that when Israel came back in 1948 to the land, that was a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Because if you read the Bible, it tells you that God would bring them back from the north, the south, the east, and the west, and they came back into the land in 1948. So many Christians in 1948 were so excited because it was a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. And even today, this war, is this part of biblical prophecy? Because we know that in the Bible, there is a war that's coming called the Gog-Magog war, which is about Russia, Iran, Syria, and Libya, and I think Sudan, all come and invade Israel. So are we getting close to this at this time and all these things? So many Christians are asking, is this the time? Is this the time that's going to happen? So
Yeah.
it's very fascinating. And just to live here during that time as well, for such a time as this, is very exciting.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, you also do poetry. You gave me some links to some videos. I think what I'm going to do is show one of those,
Yeah.
and I've got them kind of preloaded. I need to do this differently. I mean, I couldn't download them, so I need to present the screen. Let me see if I can find the right one. We'll start with the funeral.
Yeah.
Let's see. Um, Let me go to that.
I got an email today. Plan for your funeral, it said. What? I thought in surprise. Are you wishing me dead? Have you been speaking to the Grim Reaper, pointing him in my direction? Is it my time to go? Is this natural selection? Just because I'm over 50 doesn't mean I'm over the hill. Stop sending me funeral messages and just chill. I'm not about to pop my clogs or a proverbial bucket to kick. I'm feeling quite healthy and not even a little bit sick. I'm not planning to be entering yet the pearly gates in the sky. So why this funeral message? Why? Oh, why? Please don't send me anymore. Now you've been told. 50 is the new 25, and I'm not getting old.
Love that. Your videos always amuse me. There's always, to me, they're always a little comedic.
Well,
And
they're a little bit based on things in real life. So something happens in life, and so I obviously have been getting emails. I'm not necessarily. I put fictional comedy because I add things that aren't true into it. But at the same time, things that actually happen in my life. I think I sent you one as well about I was being followed. And it happened to me the other week. I was in Bethlehem and I was walking around, and this mangy dog that had basically no hair and very scabby came up to me, and then he started following me home. I'm like, oh, he's following me, and people were watching him follow me. And I had to stop and start write some lines in my iPod because I was like, this is great for a poem. So I started putting that together. So things like that just happen. So it's funny when something happens in your life and you think, right, this could be really good to make a poem. So
yeah. Go ahead and play that one. Well, I'm getting some feedback for some reason.
yeah.
Um, a little echo, but
But
why don't
just
we play
just the
that one as
breaking
well?
just
Since
the
you were
breaking
talking
news.
about,
Breaking news at the
oh,
moment: 13 hostages have just been released into
mm,
Egypt. So, and they've moved to the Red Cross custody, heading to the Rafah crossing. So they're heading now to the Rafah crossing, I think. So the Rafah crossing is Egypt. So that's 13 hostages have been released. So that's very good news.
yeah.
There's over 200 still to go, and hopefully we'll see about 100, just under 100. I think they're planning for this week. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. Where did they house them? I wonder, like a prison type thing where they house them?
Well,
The
they'll bring them into
hostages?
Egypt, and then Egypt will bring them. Then if you see
Yeah.
the
But
geography, so
while they've been hostages, where have they detained them? Were they detained like in a prison? or something
No,
like
that
that?
I think there are tunnels underground in Gaza. So if you saw last week, Israel was going into the Shifa hospital. Under the Shifa hospital is a control center for Hamas. So they have all these tunnels underground, and that's where they put the hostages. So the hostages went through the hospital. So you see how Hamas is in control of everything, and so when they fire rockets, they fire them from densely populated areas, and that's why a lot of people are killed because they're
Yeah.
firing them. So if Hamas has hostages in the tunnel, we've seen videos of the hostages being taken into the hospital, going underground. But of course, when Israel's been bombing, some hostages have been killed because they've been bombing as well in the air. They don't know where the hostages are. They're spread out all over the Gaza Strip in all of these tunnels, which just goes to show, maybe people think, oh, these Palestinians, they're crazy. No, look at it. They've got a tunnel system underground. They've built a tunnel system underground to bring in
Yeah.
all these weapons and all the black, all the stuff, what do you call it, illegal stuff coming in and everything. It's quite
Like
something that they've done.
contraband, said illegal
Well,
stuff.
they'll be able to bring anything, but they're bringing weapons in and all the sort of things. The piping that they need. I think cement to build the tunnels. They bring them in that way as well. A month or so ago, I was invited to an army base with the press office, and we got to go down a fake Hamas tunnel. So we got to go down one of them, and they also had a mock village. So they'd built a Palestinian village in Israel, and the soldiers would train there. And we were given a lecture on ethics. So, for instance, if you hear that an ambulance has been bombed by Israel, why is that? Because nobody in their right mind would bomb an ambulance. Well, the terrorists use the ambulance. They travel backwards and forwards, and they showed us video. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 people just got into the ambulance, and they move around by ambulances. So sometimes when we watch the news, we need to question ourselves: why is this happening? And sometimes we need to wait 1 or 2 days and say, oh, is this really true? So the hospital has been bombed, but was it Israel or was it a failed Palestinian rocket? So we always need to, to be very careful how we judge things, not to judge things straight away.
Right, indeed. I think I'm going to show your other one since you were talking about that dog. Now I'm curious
Yeah.
about seeing that one. I'm being followed. So let me go back to share my screen again. And here we go.
I was walking in town just last night. It was a dark evening and not very light, when suddenly I could hear footsteps from behind. I felt scared to turn around, which rendered me blind. Was I being followed? Louder the footsteps grew. Was I being followed by one person, or was it two? Was my life in danger? Perhaps a gang of thugs. If I turned around, would I meet some ugly mugs? Should I turn and look? Would that be the right thing to do? Does someone want to kill me? Oh, I wish I knew. Should I make a run for it? Make a hasty dash? Perhaps a criminal wants to steal my cash. Courageously, I slowly turned around, keeping my eyes to the ground, feeling very nervous and not making a sound. And there I saw my nemesis, right in the street. Looking down, I could see his 4 feet. It was a dog. He had followed me home. He was a stray. Around the street he did roam. His nose was aroused. He smelled something in my bag. He looked at me sadly as his eyes began to sag. To think I'd been worried about a villain following me, when all it was a scruffy dog wanting my sausages for his tea.
That was cute. I loved it. That was great.
Yeah.
So what happened to the dog that was following you? Did he
I
want
don't know.
to
I got away from him in the end. I got away from. I think I went to buy some cat food.
do
I
you
bought
have a
some
cat?
cat food. I've got about 10 cats, and I bought a tin
Wow.
of cat food last week, and it was bulging out. So something was wrong with it, and obviously it had fermented inside. So when I opened it, all the juice went absolutely everywhere. It sprayed all the way up my wall, and
Oh
it
my
stank.
God.
And it was a terrible, terrible stink. It stank my house out, and it was. And I have a very weak stomach. I can't have really bad smells. I gave it to the cat. She wouldn't eat it. I put it outside. It's in the garden now, and no one's touched it. And
Oh
it had just gone off. It was really, really foul. But I've
my
got a cat called Her Majesty, and she's white with a blue eye. And my black cat has just had kittens, and she had four white kittens,
Oh,
and I
wow.
think some of them, I think one or two of them got blue eyes. They're a little bit wild, so I haven't quite had a chance to see them. There was four, but I don't know where the two have gone, and they're hiding in the fence at the moment, so they're not quite friendly. So I'm hoping for them to be friendly. I have another white cat that's got a blue eye. Then I've got two other kittens that are a bit older. They come and sit next to me every night. One of them's black and another one's black and white. They just come and watch TV with me every night. I think one of them's actually on the table. And then I've got some tigers that come in and everything. And then I got a big fat one called Billy, and he came to see me today. So he's in and out, and he comes every few days. And then I've got one called Elias, who's a white cat as well, that just suddenly appeared at my door one day, and he's nice, and he wanders in and out whenever he wants. And I think he's the father of most of these white cats.
Have you ever written a story about the cats? The cats? Have you ever written a poem about them?
Sorry, you broke up.
Yeah, it's there's an echo or something. I said, have you ever written a little poem about the cats?
I've written many poems about cats because there's so many stories. I've just actually written one. I've finished recording one today called "The Christmas Tree," and that's about a cat as well. So, and every Christmas, I write a Christmas story. When I was younger, I used to write a Christmas story for Christmas because I love the idea of Walt Disney and the romance of the Walt Disney movies and things like that. I love that. So every year I used to write a Christmas story. So when I started writing these poems, I've done them again. So I think the very first one was about a cat who he got his Christmas present and everything. Then he went outside and saw this stray cat with nothing. So basically, he invites him to come home and they spend Christmas together. And then I
Oh,
think last year's was about a cat that went to buy a Christmas tree, and in that Christmas tree was this little bird. So they spent Christmas together. And then this year, I wrote it about 6 months ago because the idea came to me. So I wrote it, and then a few weeks ago, I got back to it just to edit it and get it ready. So it's nearly ready to record. And
wow.
it's about a white cat who has a blue eye, which is the same as mine. And
Yeah.
she's going shopping, and she sees this beautiful collar with like sapphires in it, and the sapphires match her eye, and she's like, "Oh, I wish I could buy that. So beautiful," but she can't because she needs to buy presents for her children. So then Christmas Day comes, and they give her a present, and it's this little collar with the blue sapphire in it. So she gets the Christmas present that she
Oh,
wanted. So it's very much like
that's so
a Walt
sweet.
Disney romance, cute type of thing. So I do write a lot of poems about my cats because they drive me crazy sometimes.
It's kind of funny because I started a short story last year. It was a Christmas story, and I decided to pick it up the other day. I still haven't finished it, but it's actually about cats. It's about an old woman who goes to this tree lot where they're selling Christmas trees, and there's only one. The guys are closing up. There's two guys that sell trees there every year, and they're closing up the lot because they've sold all their trees except for this one that they've named Clarabelle, which it's lost all of its needles almost. It hardly has any needles left. And so,
Mm.
they throw their sign in the dumpster. They getting ready to haul Clarabelle away to the dumpster. And this lady pulls up in her truck, this old lady, and says, "I'd like that Christmas tree if you don't mind." And they're like, there's nothing to it. you
Yeah.
know. And so she says that's okay. I'm lonely, and it looks like it's lonely too. We'll have a good Christmas together. So they put it in the back of her truck, the tree, of course. And she drives away, and on the way home it starts to snow. And then in the headlights, she notices this box alongside the road, and there's this box with this cat with three kittens. And so she
Wow.
goes and she hauls them into the truck and takes them home. And she knows she's going to get in trouble from her daughter because she's widowed and her one cat died. And she says, "You don't need any more cats. You're getting too old for that." And so anyway, that's kind of where I left it.
Yeah.
The neighbor boy's getting ready to haul the tree in. She's going to decorate this lifeless tree
Nice.
and have the cats there, but don't know where I'm
Well,
taking it.
I haven't put my Christmas tree up yet, but I do know when I do, the cats will be all over it and they'll be knocking things off. And you know, my
Yeah, we
nativity
have
scene, my nativity scene looks like ISIS has been through it because heads have been chopped off and everything. So I'll have to
oh my
probably
God.
start gluing some of the things back together again.
I
But
have a
oh
dog. You
dear,
can see her in the
yeah,
background. Sadie,
I can see him there. Yeah,
yeah, she's a good girl, but I recently got a puppy. I thought it would be, good companion for her. And it was not a good idea. It was a Chihuahua mix. It was too hyper. She'd come downstairs here, and the puppy would never come downstairs for some reason. And
yeah.
I'd be gone to work all day, and she'd come down here and hang out downstairs to get away from the puppy. But it was rather destructive, and it put a hole in one of my couches upstairs about that big.
Yeah.
I was not happy, but I rehomed her, and she actually has a great home.
Well,
Excuse me.
I would love a border collie because I grew up on a farm. So we had
Yeah,
border collies on the farm, and we had, they were so nice dogs, and you loved
they're
them.
smart.
So
They're smart.
yeah, I would love to have one here, but because I always felt that I was traveling in and out all the time, so I couldn't look after them. But then when I got I ended up with two cats by accident. A cat had kittens, and she'd left these two cats, so I took them on, and then it happened again where she had more kittens as well and just dumped them in my garden. So I've been looking after them. Then they've been breeding and breeding. Now I've got so many that they've taken over the place. But I would like a dog, really, in some ways. Uh, so I went
Yeah,
to Cyprus.
Carol had her. I've got to find somebody who can take care of her. The person next door usually takes it, but I've got to go out of town this afternoon and work for a couple of days. So, but the person next door usually takes her, and they love her. But when I go out of town, like to work or something, the puppy, nobody wanted that. So
Well,
it was.
I went. I went to Cyprus. Was it July? And I just left all the food all around the house and around the garden. And I put buckets of water and filled all the water up. I put the food in like biscuits. I gave them like 2 weeks worth of food, even though I was only away for a week. And I sprayed around so the ants couldn't get in and everything, and left the window open in the house. And that was it. Got back. Everything was fine. They can survive. They can go out and do their own thing. But there was food here as well in case they needed it. So yeah.
Yeah, I used to have a couple of that, and I would leave, and you can leave. Sometimes I'd be working for a week. But out of spite, they kept raining my house, and I put new flooring down, and they started ruining that after I spent thousands of dollars in new flooring. So I unfortunately had to get rid of them. They were sweet cats, but I just couldn't, have my new flooring ruined. But I
Yeah,
do
well,
love
mine
cats.
mine are jumping everywhere. They're up and down, and my white cat can get in the fridge. So I think it's been a poem at one point. Yeah, yes, it was. So I've been running around in the garden chasing after a piece of chicken because they've got in there and they've stolen my piece of chicken.
Oh
So
my God.
I've had
True
them getting into the
story. True
fridge.
story.
So I have to sometimes
Yeah,
put a guard, and as well when I cook chicken, all the cats are in the house. They all come in the house because they know they're going to get something. So I pour the fat out into a cup, and then I cut the chicken and take all the bits that I want, and the rest I make it into something. Put the fat over, put some biscuits on, and give them it outside. So all the cats tend to seem to come when they can smell that I'm cooking a chicken. You'll come in my house and they're sitting everywhere and meowing and growling at each other, but they're nice. It's nice to have us company.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Do you have them all named? You name them all?
No, no, I can't name them all. I've got one or two have got names. So Her Majesty with the white with the blue eye, she's my favorite, and she gets treated a little bit extra special than all the others. Then I've got Billy,
Mm.
the black cat. Elias is the white cat, and I called him Elias because my best friend is called Elias. And we had some guys from America came, and they were young; they were in their 20s, and then they left, and she got pregnant. So they left, and they thought, oh, they'll call their child Elias. So Elias is my best friend. I'm like, right, I'm going one better, and I've called my cat Elias. So I said, I've named my cat after you. So sometimes Elias is fighting, Elias is peeing on the furniture and things like that. So that's sort of how we got the name Elias, was because my friends called their child Elias as
Yeah,
well. So most of them haven't got names.
that's really cool. I recently introduced you to someone that you got in touch with. You're going to have an interview on Sunday. He's very excited, and
Yeah,
that's Eric Johnson, whose
I'm
dad was a Secret Service man for JFK. So
well.
that'll be cool.
JFK, and I've actually done a poem about JFK as well. It is something that I love, the fantasy of all that. I've watched movies, I've watched videos, documentaries. Was there three shooters? Was there two shooters? Was there one shooter? And I've seen all these things, and it's always been a fascination. And there was I think it was an American TV show called The Kennedys. I've watched that, and I've seen sort of the difficulties the Kennedys have been facing over the years, and how the father wanted someone to be the president. So
Yeah, he
and of
groomed
course,
them.
just these
He
days,
groomed them. Yeah,
yeah, on the 22nd
yeah,
of November 1963, down Elm Street in Dallas was when that actually happened. So
yeah.
to interview someone whose father was in the Secret Service, that's going to be exciting. So I'm really, really excited for that.
Yeah.
So
His father was actually, I think his father was actually waiting at the place where he was going to go speak. And then a good family friend who was a serviceman in the car, he was the one that kind of, crawled over the seat and stuff. I think
well,
didn't he crawl over the seat to protect Jackie or something. So, yeah, his dad
Jackie
was a
started
good,
getting out of the car
yeah,
when
yeah,
Ken shot and he grabbed his throat. Then the next thing, a bullet came to his head and he went. Then Jackie started climbing out of the back of the car. And I think some Secret Service were running, obviously, to deal with her and everything, but to keep her in the
yeah,
car. And then they took him to the Parkland Hospital. And then, of course, was it 2 days later for the same hospital? There's a movie called Parklands or something like that. Lee Harvey Oswald was shot by Jack Ruby in
yeah,
the police station. Now, Jack Ruby's real name was Jack Rubenstein, so he was obviously Jewish, and it's
yeah.
quite ironic, really, because he was Jewish and shot um, Lee Harvey Oswald. Then, of course, Robert Kennedy, he was assassinated. He was assassinated by a Palestinian.
Oh, it's so
So,
strange, isn't it?
so
Yeah,
just so yeah, so it's fascinating. I just love the whole romance about that. I did hear that Donald Trump said he was going to release the paperwork for that, and he told somebody he was gonna do it, and then they said, "Hey, are you going to do this? Your presidency is running short." And Trump said, "If you saw what I saw, you wouldn't release it." So it's a shame, really, that it hasn't been released. We don't know what's happened,
that makes it even
whether it was
more
the
puzzling,
CIA or
doesn't it?
somebody else.
Yeah, that makes it more
Yeah,
puzzling.
it keeps the suspicion, it keeps the conspiracy theories and all this at bay. We obviously have the same thing in the UK with Princess Diana. Was the royal family behind the assassination of Princess Diana, and all these conspiracy theories and everything as well? But that's our sort of conspiracy theory on the same sort of lines as John F. Kennedy. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
fascinating.
exactly. I'm gonna go show that last video that you gave me. It's called The Affair,
Yes.
and let me present my screen again, share that, and
My wife thinks I'm having an affair. She thinks I'm a cheat. She's got it into her mind that beautiful girls I do meet. Her imagination is running wild. She keeps saying I lied, all because she thinks I've got a bit on the side. She accuses me of buying them beautiful bouquets of flowers and saying we sit and drink champagne for hours and hours, eating boxes of chocolates, carries all gold on milk tray, and staring into each other's eyes in a romantic way. She thinks I'm a Casanova, dating behind her back. You're a cheat, she cries. Moral integrity you lack. I've heard you talking, she shouts. I know your game. Siri and Alexa, I even know their name. I'm so upset. Our marriage has run its course. These girls will be named and shamed. I want a divorce.
Hilarious. That was so funny. Loved it. Siri and Alexis.
Yeah,
Yes.
it cut the beginning off, but basically it's saying my wife is, yeah, my wife was accusing me of having an affair, and in the end, I'm talking to Siri and Alexa. That was the sort of the poem gist. So yeah,
I love that. That was great. We have some
but
comments. Most of them were made earlier, I think. Oh, somebody wrote in a different language.
oh, that's Arabic.
Yeah, and then we
Google
have very
Translate.
impressive. Wow, fantastic, and a hi for Marty. Hey, Marty. Marty is Alan Johnson, who used to do our videos for us in the UK. He recently passed, not quite a month ago. It's been almost a month,
Wow.
and that's his son. And great loss. We've lost a lot in the poetry community. We lost like 7 or 8 people. It's horrible.
Wow. Yeah.
One of the poets, Romeo, Phyllis, Gail, was his significant other. He lived in Florida, and I found out 2 weeks after he passed. I didn't even know it, and contacted her last week, and she said he had just gone across the street to get something like at the store, and 20 minutes after he left, the car sped down the street at 75 miles an hour and hit him and drug him 50 feet and killed him.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
tragic.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is.
So,
It is.
but well, our time has come to an end, but I can't tell you how great it's been to have you on here again, and all the enlightenment that you've given us over what's going on over where you are. And
Yeah.
I guess, go
It's been
ahead.
great to join you and be with you. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I really want to hear a recording of your event on Sunday with Eric, so I would love to hear that.
It will be on
Um,
my Facebook page. Probably Monday or Tuesday. I'll get it edited and put onto my Facebook page, but it will be there. Yeah.
Great. I will watch it. He's very excited. He thanked me for it. He's like, "Oh, I'm so excited."
Oh, great.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting. His dad was a big part of history, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's what I
Well,
feel
thank
like I'm doing here, being in the Holy Land. I'm recording history. You know, over the
Yes,
years,
you are.
we've had many historic events that have been on here. Basically, when Donald Trump moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, that was a very big historic event. I went to see Donald Trump when he came, so I was at the airport and took photographs. I was also there when Joe Biden came as well. So, and he came to Bethlehem as well. Donald Trump didn't come to Bethlehem, but Joe Biden did. So I was there for that and seeing a lot of these dignitaries. Just recently, Speaker of the House McCarthy, he came, so I saw him at Yad Vashem. So all these people, and then all these different stories and things. So all these interviews, I'm interested in getting because I'm recording history. So I'm excited about doing
Mm,
that. Mm.
yeah. Well, I'll be excited to watch it. So, well, thank you everyone for joining us. There will be many that will be viewing this afterwards, but love and blessing to everyone. Thank you so much, Paul. Been a joy as always. Love your poetry. Always love seeing your videos. Make sure you, when you do make your video for your Christmas this year, because I remember seeing your Christmas one last year, that you send me a link to that so I can see that.
They will be blogged out as well. So I do a lot of blogging out, so they will be blogged out as well. So great.
Great,
Thank you.
great. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. Have a good rest of your day, and let's all pray for peace in the Middle East, and pray that the other hostages are released soon as well. So take care, Paul. Take care,
Great. Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you. God bless. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.